Ahoy, Yomalies! Welcome to the Naked Mennonite, the podcast for, all of Menno Simons's black sheep, I, of course, am your host, Stephen Harder, and most of you know my parents. They are Diedrich and Helena Harder. They were out in Grunthal there before they retired to the manor. And just thank you so much for coming and listening in on my little conversation that I've got lined up today. I'm going to be having a chat with, one of Steinbeck's most funny guys. His name is Andrew Unger, and he has been writing some frightfully funny stuff on the internet there about Mennonites and how they act and behave and all sorts of sputzing and joking around. He's got quite the brain on that one, let me tell ya. So I'm going to just give him a call here on the party line, and we'll see if we can get him on the line here. Let's see what we can do.
Hi.
Hello, is this Mr. Andrew Unger?
Yes, it is. Who am I?
Oh, that's so great. This is Mr. Stephen Harder from Grunthal calling you.
Oh,
Yeah, we are going to have that chat here today on the party line here. Have I caught you at an okay time?
yeah. But if this is a party line, who else is listening in?
Oh, you never know. It could be anybody, really. It's probably people who, are just needing to catch up on the local news, and
Oh,
just wanting to, just needing a little bit of entertainment. Maybe their Wi-Fi is down. You know how it
there's
is.
some heavy breathing.
Oh, yeah, that's probably Mary Schmidt. I
Yeah,
think she's been struggling with her post-COVID a little bit. I
yeah.
told her to get vaccinated, but she wouldn't listen.
Omicron is maybe listening in.
Oh, maybe. I think it's everywhere. Kind of like the Holy Spirit. And also like the devil. They're both everywhere all the time, it seems.
Well, it's good. That's kind of balances out then.
Exactly. You can't have it's all supposed to be very balanced. That's very biblical. That good is balanced out with bad. That's definitely there in the Bible. So, Mr. Andrew, thanks so much for chatting with me here today. So glad to have this opportunity with you, funny man such as yourself. Obviously, the name of this here program is called the Naked Mennonite. So, everyone on the program, has to be two things. The first one, obviously, is that they have to be naked. So I can confirm for you here on the phone that I'm sitting here in the kitchen at the counter here on my stool. It's a little chilly in here, but don't have a stitch clothing on me here, and I'll tell you, I can't wait to be getting back into my long johns, because it's awful chilly in here. But the show's got to go on, so I can confirm that that all that I'm wearing is nothing. Can you confirm the same?
Well, I never strip down beyond, my suspenders. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah. I didn't realize that you're into that kind of kink, but
Yeah. Well, I
uh,
couldn't figure out what to clip them onto though.
uh-huh. And so you decided on,
They're just sort of hanging loosely,
oh, they're just dangling there.
dangling suspenders. Yes.
Yeah, dangling by your knees.
Yes. Hmm.
Oh, okay. I figured you're an Unger, so it goes without saying. Okay, so then we got that one out of the way. Oh, that's always a tricky one, because I don't want to get too inappropriate. It's challenging sometimes. Okay, and the second thing, in order to be on the show here, you need to be a Mennonite. So I just got a quick little quiz for you here, and so long as you pass the quiz, then absolutely you qualify, and we can have a nice little chitty chat. Okay. But you don't worry, have to worry. This isn't like it's not a written quiz, so you don't have to, if that kind of thing makes you nervous.
Shoot. Oh, I guess if I'm gonna say shoot, I'll say go.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, question number one. What method of baptism did you receive?
Well, okay. It was a dunking.
Oh my.
Some Mennonites do dunking. The MBs and the EMBs do dunking, and I was an EMB, so
Oh, whoa, EMB. What? I don't know what an EMB is. Is that one of those branches?
You know what? You know a liger, which
A
is a
liger?
cross lion and a tiger.
Okay, yo.
So the EMB is like a cross between the EMC and the MB. They mated.
Oh.
This is not the true history of this denomination, but I'm just saying it's an analogy.
Interesting. So instead of, forming their own two separate denominations, they just got together and like made a chimera of types.
Yes, and it's like a. I don't know my Greek myths. I only know my Mennonite myths. So what's the horse with the lion's head and the uh yeah, it's like that.
It's like a horse with a lion. The EMBs are like a horse with a lion's head. Sounds majestic and inspiring.
And totally not true because someone will come and they'll say you have the you know how Mennonites are. This should be part of your quiz. They're really, if you get any detail wrong about the history of their church or their family, they're on you like a horse with a lion's head. It's just, so I'm a little bit nervous about this going out there into the world there, Stephen Harder.
Yeah, well, you know what? We'll just edit it out. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'll just I'll just remember to cut that part out.
Oh, phew. Okay.
Okay, but you're baptized by dunking. Okay. Well, I think that one's a pass then there.
Yeah.
Okay. Question number 2 on the quiz here. What is the best ice cream treat to have with your can of Pepsi?
Oh, a ravel.
Oh, yeah, I know, right? That was a little bit of an easy. I kind of set you up for that one. That one was really sample then. If you had to choose between a ravel and a drumstick, though, what would you choose?
Uh, I would choose the creamsicle.
Oh, okay, interesting. That's valid. That's fair, I guess. Okay, but like creamsicle or ice cream sandwich, what would you choose then?
Oh, I'm sticking with the creamsicle.
What's with you and the creamsicles?
I just like the orange with the ice cream inside.
Well, I know what it is. What's with it?
It's delicious.
Hmm.
I think it's because I grew up going to Uncle Jake's at the Clear Spring Mall, and always they didn't have any other beverages. They didn't have Pepsi. They didn't have Coke. They didn't have anything other than uh, like Orange Crush or C Plus or something like that. And so that orange
Really?
just resonates with me.
Oh, Cisco must have been really asleep at the switch there. Okay, creamsicle, but yeah, Ravel goes with Pepsi. Okay, got it. Okay, question number 3 on the quiz, really simple. If you had to choose one country to emigrate to and immigrate from, which would it be and why?
To immigrate to, well, Paraguay, of course.
Oh, yo, exactly,
It's the
exactly.
land of, um, I don't know what's the land of Yerba Mate and hot weather, right?
Oh, sorry, what was that?
Hot weather and yerba.
Oh, yeah. But they have a different name for yerba when it's cold, right? What do they call it then?
Uh, I don't know.
Mate? Or is it the other way around?
I don't know. You're even harder.
Yo, well, I'm testing you here,
Oh,
Andrunger.
oh, okay. I don't know the nuances of the yerba mate. I don't know. I guess mate means hot, right? The ones
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, exactly. So
I don't know. I don't know. Okay, so
the
I would.
the important thing is that you're drinking it from a horn with a metal slotted Slurpee spoon.
You
That's
know,
that's the important
I,
thing.
I have visited Paraguay
Mm.
for illegally.
What?
I'm telling you about my illegal visit to Paraguay for about 1 hour.
An hour?
Yes,
What were you doing in Paraguay illegally for an hour?
I was in Brazil.
Well, no, that's not Paraguay. That's Brazil. Those are different countries.
Sorry, I was in Brazil at where the waterfall, the Iguazu Falls are, and we were going back to the hotel, and the guy in our taxi cab said, "Hey, do you want to go to Paraguay?" And I said, "Well, I don't have my passport with me. It's in the hotel safe." He's like, "Oh, doesn't matter. I can talk to the guy." So we we crossed the border into whatever city of Paraguay is on the border with Brazil there. I think it's I'm probably saying this wrong. Ciudad del Este or something.
Oh yeah, you said that right.
Yes, okay, got it. And we went there, drove around a little bit, and then on the way back, apparently this is like a cross-border shopping paradise for Brazilians. They go to Paraguay cross-border shop, kind of like the Grand Forks Manitobans. This is like the same sort of idea.
Might
And
be
then
a longer drive for a Manitoban to go to
yeah,
Paraguay, but yeah, okay, sure.
cross-border shopping. And then when we were coming back into Brazil, then I was a little bit nervous because we didn't have a passports with us. But the guy talked to the guy, and it was smooth sailing. I don't know if he just talked to him, but we made it back through.
Interesting. Well, did you have to pay the taxi driver extra for that little detour?
Well, I negotiated. It was on the meter. He kept us on the meter, so I negotiated. He told us approximately how much it would cost, whatever. And so now I can say I've been to Paraguay, but I have not been to the Chaco, which is where all the fringe shops are.
Interesting. You were just illegally there near Brazil doing who knows what for an hour. Interesting. Shopping with, won't say what you're shopping for. Giant tarantula, probably. Okay, so you would immigrate to Paraguay. Where would you choose to immigrate from?
Well, I mean, of course, I would have to choose to immigrate from Soviet Union.
Naturally, naturally. Why is that? Why would you choose that place to emigrate from?
Well, isn't this a test to see how Mennonite I am?
Oh, yo,
Oh,
exactly. But you have to have the proper justification. You can't.
okay.
This
Oh, wait,
isn't
wait.
multiple choice.
Give you a better answer. I would choose to immigrate from the Netherlands, then to Prussia, then to Russia, then to Canada, then to Mexico, then to Paraguay, Belize, Bolivia, and back to Canada, and then back to Mexico, and then back to Canada. That's would be my immigration journey.
Oh,
How,
that you just left out. No, you didn't leave out any place, Andrew. You got them all. Good work. I was rooting for you. I didn't know if you'd get that last Canada back in there, but yeah, you pulled it out at the last. Good job. I'd give you a round of applause if that wasn't might cause you to feel proud or something. So, but good job. Okay, so you pass the quiz. You're both Naked and Mennonite. So welcome to the program here. So good to have you. Can you give me a little bit of a description? Who is Andrew Unger? Like, what if I needed to, like, if I looked him up on the Wikipedia there, what would be in that little opening paragraph that you read and quote from when you're doing your Facebook debates?
well, have you been editing my Wikipedia page?
No, no, I've only heard about Wikipedia.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
still using Carta down at the library, though.
But apparently, you can just add stuff in there on
Oh,
Wikipedia.
really?
And just put things, whatever you want on there. I have a satire website called the Daily Bonnet, and I also have a couple books. That's probably what I'm known for. That's probably the answer to your question. Is that complex enough for you?
No, no, that's a real good prim, primer. That's a very good opening, I would say. Okay, so you have one of these funny people websites where you do the schputzing, and you've got a couple books. The books, are they schputzing filled as well, or are they more serious in nature?
I would say they've got they've got funny moments in them. Yeah, I have a novel called Once Removed that came out a year ago,
Oh, yeah, I heard about that one.
just recently. A collection of articles from the Daily Bonnet called The Best of the Bonnet.
Oh, interesting.
You want me to read you some headlines from there?
Oh, yo, that'd be good. I need to catch up on my headline.
So here's some news. Friesen wedding is well attended by local Friesens.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that one there. Yeah, absolutely. The Friesen wedding, totally. Weren't they related to the Friesen drillers there?
They could be. I'm sure some of those drillers were there. Well, here's one for you. Excited for latest installment in the Harder Boys series. Did you ever read the Harder Boys books?
The Harder Boys. No, I wasn't allowed to read those ones.
Yeah, like The Secret of Mrs. Schellenberg's Pantry and The Secret of Mrs. Lowen's Duoc and The Secret of the Plet Barn. The Secret of the Missing Hymnals. That was a really good Harder Boys book.
Of the missing hymnals. Oh, that sounds like a real page turner there.
Yeah.
What
Um,
where were the hymnals?
well, you have to read the book to find out.
Maybe I can sleep down to the Jacob.
This one's a little bit sadder news, but Mennonite woman dies, donates her organs, and but her Wurlitzers, her Hammonds, she was donating.
Well, it's good to probably to MCC then, or
Yeah, yeah. Well, yes, yeah. Mennonite churches are begging people to sign their organ donor cards. You know,
mm-hmm.
uh, but Mrs. Weens assures you that they will never, these organs, if you donate them, will never be used to play rock songs.
Oh, well, that should go without saying, but you never know in this day and age with everyone being so progressive, conservative.
Yes. Isn't that an oxymoron?
Sure, now that I say those words out loud, it sure feels like an oxymoron, but apparently not. Apparently that's uh
Are you one of those extreme centrists?
I am no, I'm definitely not an extreme centrist. I'm more of a moderate left-rightist. Oh, those are some interesting headlines there, Andrew. So, and if we're reading the best of the bonnet, then we can be reading those articles in full, I imagine, or is it the kind of thing where you have to subscribe for a monthly thing in order to get access to it?
Oh, well, the website has the articles, but the book has the articles too, and the book also has some things that the website doesn't have, like in the back, there's even a glossary. I know that you wouldn't require the glossary, but there's a glossary of Low German words, like
No.
for the Englishers who might have troubles with it, like they might not know Oma, that Oma means grandmother, the one who feeds you, uncle, the one who complains a lot about politics, and Opa, grandfather, the one who tells you stories he claims are true but probably aren't. Ponta was on a different page. I was just reading you the O's there, so
I see. Yo.
very helpful.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Those Englishers, they could really benefit from a little bit of understanding when it comes to some of our Ploteach. Kind of like I was at the MHV one time and I saw that they had a Ploteach dictionary of all things. Can you believe that?
Can you believe it? I thought it was an unwritten thing.
Apparently, they wrote it down so that people would know what it meant. So okay, so Andrew, he's this author. He's the guy who's making these funny, witty observations about Mennonitism. Like when he thinks of the Mennonite label, how what are how do what parts of that? Because it means a lot of different things, right? Like it can you can be a religious Mennonite, you can be like an ancestrally Mennonite, you can be culturally Mennonite, or any combination thereof. Like when you think of yourself as a Mennonite, like what parts of those labels stick the best to you? Which ones fit the best? Which ones, maybe don't fit so well?
I would say they all stick a little bit. A little bit they stick, and then, but not entirely. Well, ancestrally, yeah, okay, my ancestors have been Mennonites for a long time, so that one I guess sticks. But like culturally, um, I'm not, what would be the cultural things of a Russian Mennonite? Like foods. Okay, yeah, I eat the foods, sure, but I'm not certainly not fluent in Ploteach like you are, Stephen Harder.
Oh,
You know,
well, who is?
yeah, I'm not. My skills are weak there. So, so culturally, I would say there's definitely people who are more authentic than I am culturally, who might even have a beard though. Is that part of
Oh,
it?
oh yeah, that gets you a couple points.
And and religiously, I would say it's a sort of a negotiation thing where I kind of like I would definitely not say if I read. I've never read the complete writings of Menno Simons. It's a thick book. Have you read that? I'm sure Stephen Harder. If you have
I,
a show like this, you've read the complete writings of Menno Simons.
I've got it on the bedside table there. I'm definitely going to get around to it. I'm sure.
So if I read that, I'm sure there would be much that I would disagree with. So, but I might agree with Menno on some things. I think it's good. I think Menno was right about not killing people.
Hmm.
That's one.
Well,
Um, so that's a good one.
mark that one down in the keeper column. Marrying your cousins? Well, I don't know. Take or leave that one, maybe.
Shunning, not a fan. I don't think we should.
Hmm. But what about with the like? Because there's loopholes. You get them. You still sit at the same, tablecloth together, even if you aren't at the same table.
That's true. You put the two
Yeah,
tables together and put the tablecloth over. That's
exactly.
true.
There's workarounds.
Yeah, that's
Doesn't
true.
seem so bad. I have some family members that I'd like to be shunned from. I think that'd be a nice break.
You could shun them instead
Oh
of.
no, 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 no! That'd be too unchristian of
Would you rather be shunned or do the shunning?
I would rather be shunned easily. Oh, that'd be simple. Cause then, oh, okay, fine. I'm gonna, go off and do my own thing. But yeah, I don't want someone to be angry at me because I'm shunning them.
Yeah. But did you hear about the Mennonites that um did you hear about that drive-by shunning?
No, I did not hear about the drive-by shunning.
There's a brutal drive-by shunning in Ohio.
Ooh, yeah, that's a dangerous place, Ohio. So, oh, Andrew, the other day I was just popped into that new brew house, on Main Street there in Steinbach. Not like I went in just to use the bathroom.
Yeah, you didn't know what it was. Did they need did they ask for a did you need to ask for a key?
They just buzzed me in.
Oh,
It
okay.
was okay. Yeah, yeah. There are two new technology there. But did I I saw the back of someone and I didn't think that it was you because I knew that a good Unger boy such as yourself would not be at a public brew house like the one in Steinbach on Main Street that's now open and for business. But that wasn't you, right?
Of course we wouldn't have acknowledged each other.
Nah, yo.
Didn't you vote on that referendum where
Yeah.
Steinbeck vote against acknowledging each other in places like that?
Exactly.
Not to
Exactly.
anyone. So I'm pretty sure you did not recognize me there. I'm pretty sure.
What happened? What happens at the LC stays in the LC, right? Unless it comes out in a brown paper bag.
They sell chips and stuff there now, I think. So
Chips. Oh, yo, good.
chaps,
Good.
old Dutch
Chaps.
chap, Cocosina chaps, apple
Hmm.
chaps.
So you're saying that, parts of the labels apply, even if they don't, apply hard and fast. How is that? Is that the same? Is that different from Andrew growing up? How do you compare and contrast who you are now as a Mennonite against who you were then in those, early formative years?
Hmm. I think that's sort of an evolving thing. I think it's a continually evolving thing. I mean, I don't accept that, but accept evolution. That's a controversial
Oh,
thing.
like Andrew, you're not saying that we're all, you don't believe in that evolution business, do you? That we're all, descendant from monkeys or something.
You don't believe Mennonites are descended from apes?
Well, did that Abe have a tail?
Well, short one.
Oh, well, okay. I could buy that then.
How
Okay,
many
sure.
eggs are there in the harder book?
Oh yeah, yeah. Like in the harder book, there's I don't know. I haven't counted them recently, but I'm sure we're up to I don't know 30,000 apes, more than in the wild. That's for sure. But okay, so how does Andrew today and his Mennoniteness and partial lack thereof, how does that compare to Andrew as a child, as a young, as a teen, as a young man? What's that process of evolution been like for Andrew?
In some ways, I'm more of a Mennonite than I was then. In some ways, less, and it really depends how you define those terms, and it's really complicated and complex, or whatever. So I mean, I brought it up before. When I was a teenager, I would have thought that pacifism, for example, was totally ridiculous. And now I would say I subscribe to it. So in that way, I guess I'm more of a Mennonite. But there's loads of things in which I would not agree with. You know, some of the things that I would have held to. When I was a teenager. A lot of restrictions on people's lives and social issues and even evolution from apes, all sorts of things that that my views have changed on. So um, am I more of a Mennonite now than I was 20 years ago? Well, it depends how you define that. I would say yes and no. If you define a Mennonite by having conservative views on social issues, then I'm less of a Mennonite than I was uh, 30 years ago. But if you define it as some other things, I might be more. Um, it really depends.
Interesting. So it sounds like, the like what is it that the deeper, harder things uh they that you've put more thought into, that they're more meaningful to you, whereas maybe some of the simpler things, you know, um that people just kind of default to, like the conservative social values, uh those ones. It almost sounds like there's a little bit of a differentiation. I don't know, are there any simple issues? Well, I guess that's hard to define. What's a simple issue that defines a Mennonite? It just sounds like the pieces that you hold on to, they are ones that you have thought deeply about. Whether it's Coke or Pepsi, that's not important, but the actual value in uh, you know it's not that you know killing people is bad because the Bible says it's bad, but what's the deeper reason for it? Am I painting the right kind of picture there?
You're getting pretty deep there, Stephen Harder.
I do. I go deep all the time.
When I was a kid, I don't even know if I would have religious religiously or whatever would have used the term Mennonite to describe myself. I would have said I was a Mennonite, because I ate Schmontvat and Verenica and stuff like that. But the things that in my head I associated with what being a Mennonite meant religiously, I rejected, and I would have probably been more conventionally like what people would call evangelical or whatever. And now I think there's a lot of problematic aspects of that. So when I say I sort of have evolved or changed or whatever, I'm not sure if it's really so much um, necessarily Mennonite specific things that I'm reacting to. It's really hard to differentiate. Okay, is that a Mennonite thing that I'm reacting to, or is that like an evangelical thing I'm reacting to? And you know, which one represents what Mennonites are, or whatever. It's a really it's a difficult thing. It's kind of like Do you ever think like, okay, let's say when you're a kid, and so you might get the impression that people now swear more, like curse more, than they used to, and maybe they do. I don't know. Or is it just that your perception is different? In other words, when you were a child, nobody swore around you; they avoided doing it, but maybe all the adults did, and you just didn't notice because you were a kid and they didn't swear around you. So then I often think about that. Is it society that has changed, or is it just my perception of things that has changed? And so the same sort of thing applies to this issue, where sometimes I have trouble knowing, like, okay, is this thing that I'm reacting to, is it really a Mennonite thing or is it not? And so it's a really difficult question to answer, because uh, a lot of the Mennonite churches in southern Manitoba have become evangelical, and that's not necessarily, I'm not criticizing that, but when they become evangelical in the American sense that we see down south there, that's highly problematic. And then I would say that they're no longer actually Mennonites. So this is probably getting way too deep for your show here, Stephen Harder. But I don't know. It's kind of my convoluted, messy thoughts on that. But it's 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 difficult, yeah, to have a really succinct answer there.
So are you suggesting then that Mennonites haven't always been evangelical in nature?
Um, no, they haven't. Especially not. If what you're defining evangelical is, all these words have definitions and people don't always use the same ones, but especially not if you're defining evangelical by you know sort of American style, heavily right wing politically, uh, all that sort of stuff. I mean, I've studied enough about the history of Mennonites, in globally, but also in southern Manitoba, uh, to know, for example, just an example of this, that Mennonites in Manitoba routinely voted Liberal until just a few decades ago. Uh, the great L.A. Barkman, who was mayor of Steinbach, plus also the MLA, was a member of the Liberal Party.
No.
Yes, can you believe
Well, if he was like David if Toady, then I'd believe you, but uh,
it?
interesting. And yet, and so, yeah, it's curious what would cause that shift then.
I mean, you really want to into? I know the answer to some of this. Do you really want to go into all that, or?
Give it to me, man. I haven't had someone, to talk political with on the podcast before, so I'm interested to know your thoughts for sure.
Okay, well, my understanding is, and a lot of this is coming from Ralph Friesen's work, who's a former Steinbeck resident. He lives in BC now, but he's done a lot of work on history of southern Manitoba and Steinbeck in particular. And so, if you want more details on this and more accurate information, then what, I might mess it up. But you want more accurate information, look up some of the articles and books that he's written, that talk about this. But basically, there was a shift from the sort of traditional, in Steinbeck, anyways, they would have been quite conservative, but sort of traditional Mennonite churches, like, I'm talking about, like, you know, men on one side, women on the other, no music in church, um, Buick and long dress, plain dress, type Mennonites. Uh, there's a shift from that to the evangelical churches in the 50s and 60s, when there were a lot of American revivalists, and local people too, that you think, like, why would they come to southern Manitoba, where people were already primarily Christian, primarily religious? Why would that be the big place for revival movements to come? Like, you'd think that they would go somewhere where the people weren't particularly religious, but no, they were very popular in southern Manitoba. There was a building, a Quonset, right here, kind of like what is now downtown Steinbach, called the Tabernacle, where these revival meetings were held, and these are very kind of like, Billy Graham style. It wasn't Billy Graham, but Billy Graham style things, and that movement radically changed the churches and theology of the people in, not just in Steinbach, but throughout this area. Uh, that's one factor. There's other factors, politically why they, sort of changed or whatever. But that's one of the biggest factors. Now, is that bad or is that good? I mean, that depends on your point of view. Certainly, like, depends what you're sort of comparing it to. Like, if your option is this, if your option is you're going to go to a church where men are on one side, women on the other, and you have to wear plain clothes, and you can't have any instruments because that's a sin, or your other option is very charismatic. And this is false dichotomy. I admit this, but let's say the other option is very charismatic and a light show and a rock band in front and very sort of like repetitive, emotionally driven worship songs. Uh, which one's better? Which is one progress over the other? Is one regressive compared to the other? I think sometimes I tackle those kind of issues on the Daily Bonnet where I'm like, they both have flaws. When I look at them, both of those things have serious flaws. So, this change in southern Manitoba, where if people come to southern Manitoba and they expect to see Mennonites, what the picture in their head of what Mennonites are is not at all like what you're going to see here. But we used to be, like 70, 80 years ago, we used to be when J.R. Friesen brought the first car into Steinbach and started the first auto dealership in Steinbach, which is now the Automobile City. He was excommunicated from the Kleingemeinde, which later became the EMC, which is actually part of that process of becoming evangelical. Yeah, he was excommunicated from the church for driving a car, and then now like it's totally normal here. It's like people wouldn't even notice that it's any different here.
Everybody's driving cars now.
Yeah, look at that. There's very little horse shit on the streets anymore.
On the streets, just online.
Exactly. Just we that's a I might yeah, that's a good one. All the horse shit is online now instead of on the streets.
I expect to see that headline in my Facebook feed within the next month here, Andrew.
Yeah, you might see that. There might be a news item about that. So, when I look at a transition like that, I kind of go, huh, which one's better? I don't know. I don't know. If,
Hmm.
and part of like my novel Once Removed, which is mostly a comedy, but and it doesn't tackle religion so much, but it definitely deals with the issue of like change and progress, and is it progress? Like, is it progress if you demolish all the old buildings in a town, uh, put up new, nice, fancy ones? Is that progress? Well, you got nicer, better, cleaner, nicer, more beautiful looking buildings that aren't falling apart. But you also lose something in that process. Like, you lose like uh, history, heritage, stories, all that kind of stuff. So I think that's one of the things for me as a satirist. People think that I am opinionated, and of course I am opinionated. But people think that I have very strong opinions about issues, and I sort of do in a way. But on the other hand, I always see flaws in everything. Like, you could tell me a position, a viewpoint, or whatever, and I'm constantly finding flaws. I'm talking about myself too, like in my own thoughts, my own opinions about things. I am not 100% confident about any opinion that I have. I always like, well, there's that counter argument, there's that flaw. Like, there's nothing. I could tell you my opinion, and I could tell you it very passionately, but I would also doubt it at the same time, simultaneously, even if I didn't articulate that doubt. And I think that's, you sort of have to be that way as a satirist, but it also was helpful for satire, like, because nothing is perfect. There's always flaws somewhere, and so that's kind of with this issue too. Is is like why maybe why I had trouble answering your question is that that these things are like so complex that um, I have a hard time giving like an emphatic answer to anything.
Hmm. I see. I see. Like you're saying that nothing is perfect except for the Bible, of course.
Yeah, and our interpretations of it are equally.
Absolutely, without flaw. Other than those MBers, they're certainly paddling their ship down the wrong creek, if you know what I mean. But uh,
Okay, so you talk about the interpretation of the Bible and different denominations. I don't know if you want to go there, but
let's
here's
go there. I think we're here already.
all right. Okay, well, so here's the thing: is like um, I think people think that sort of if people lump like let's say you have this overarching category of Christians, and under that you have Mennonites, and under Mennonites you have MBs, EMBs, blah 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 blah. But I think that you could continue narrowing down, and if you really question people and you narrow it down, you'd find, and this is not any kind of brilliantly original insight on my part, but I think that you'd find that no two people, even people that are supposedly part of the same church or same religion, agree. Uh, Even on things that they claim they agree about, if you were to take every word in that sentence and say, "What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? And what do you mean by that?" Like if you would just take some of the like historic creeds of the church, like the Mennonites have the Schleitheim Confession. I'm not even making that up. That's really what it's called. If you were to look at each item on that list, and then you might have two people that say, "Oh yeah, I agree with that." Another person say, "Oh yeah, I agree with that." But if you look at every word and every item on that list and ask people what they mean by that, then I think you'd find, and it wouldn't take very long, that, and I think this is a Gandhi said this, and if I'm misquoting Gandhi, I apologize to Gandhi. But there are as many religions in the world as there are people. So we have
Hmm.
these Mennonites or whatever, and they have some use. They do tell us something, but they don't tell us as much as we think they do because everyone, everyone's different, and everyone has different views on all sorts of things, and you know, even two people that are very similar are not as similar as they seem.
Hmm. Except, of course, for a man and his wife, then they are of one
Yeah,
mind.
they're completely the two become one flesh, and then
Hmm.
they never disagree on anything. Isn't that
Nope.
amazing how that works, Stephen Harder?
Well, so long as she knows her place, then absolutely they never disagree
So
on anything.
with Tina Harder,
What's that?
your relationship with your wife Tina.
Oh, we don't. That no, you're thinking of my sister Tina. That's my
Oh,
sister
well,
Tina.
it could also be your wife. You're Mennonite.
Oh, yo, it's that's true. There's no
Or your
doesn't
cousin.
say anywhere in the Bible that that's not allowed there. But so long as we all remember that who the head of the house is, just like who the head of the church is, it's not the Pope. I'll tell you that much.
That's the thing with Mennonites is they have no pope. I mean, of course, we don't have the pope, but we have no even head of church. There isn't any. And so this thing that I
Oh,
was
I
talking.
thought it was that Plet there.
Oh well, yeah. I guess there's. You mean Senator Don Plett?
Oh, yeah, that's who I meant. For the longest time, I was pretty sure that someone that I went to high school with, that her dad, he was Don Platt. And when I heard about Senator Don Platt, like, oh my, that's suddenly, I'm all kinds of famous now because I went to school with the daughter of Senator Don Platt. And then it was only this past year I realized that, oh, no, no, no. He's like Plumber Dunplat. He is not a senator. I'm just like, oh, okay. I'm no longer so famous anymore.
But it could have been the same. Was it? I don't know. It could be the same person.
No, no. I
Plumber.
converted. We had
Plumber.
a good laugh over it.
Okay. All right. It
I
was.
don't know. Maybe he does plumbing on the side too. Maybe that's what he's good at fixing.
They always appoint plumbers as senators, don't they? Isn't
I
that the
think it's.
natural career
I think
path?
that there has to be a quota.
The plumbers on the how who else is gonna fix the plumbing at the House of Commons there? Or
Exactly. They gotta have someone there, and it has to be unbiased.
not the
And
House of Commons. I don't want anyone saying you got the Senate in the Senate, not the House of Commons.
yeah, well, it's the upper house, right? So,
Right.
they
Upper
gotta
house,
take
that means the plumbing better be really good because
a
it drains onto,
you don't want that to be coming down on, Prime
Trudeau and
Minister
home co
Trudeau there. God bless him. Someone's got to, right?
yeah.
Yo. So Andrew, tell me, so you're making these wry observations with a W, not an R. Well, I guess there's an R as well. No E in it. These wry observations. Do you feel like you belong within, the Mennonite fold, or do you feel like an observer within of the fold, or how what does it feel like for you, knowing that the labels kind of fit, and you're kind of, and you spend, a lot of time, making these, thinking about these things and observing. Do you feel like you're within, or do you feel that there's still that you're somewhat apart, even though you are in?
I I would say I I would say, I mean, although I talked about how, I don't necessarily fit in in some different ways, and I don't necessarily agree with all, doctrine and stuff like that. But I do feel like I am I do feel like I'm within, and I think it's only the satire part of me that feels like like an outsider, sort of. Like as a person, I feel like an insider. As a satirist, I sort of feel like you have to be a little bit of an outsider. Like, you have to be an
Well,
insider and an outsider. Like, I remember when I first started the Daily Bonnet, I remember people sending emails when they didn't know who wrote it or whatever. And people send emails and they were very concerned and they said things like, "This better be. I sure hope that all the people that are writing this website are Mennonites." Like as if like uh, we wouldn't want outsiders making these jokes, which is like a classic Mennonite thing to be concerned about because probably any whatever Mennonites are very concerned about only we can make fun of right, but or make fun of ourselves or whatever. Okay, but my response to that, I don't know if I responded to it. I don't know if I responded to the email, but my response to it in my head, anyways, was okay. First of all, yes, it is a Mennonite writing this, and then secondly, um, would a non-Mennonite even be capable of writing this? Because there's all these jokes and inside things and details I don't think actual outsider would be capable of doing. So that's where I feel like as a satirist, I'm an insider. As a person, I feel like I'm on the inside, although, as I said, I don't agree with everything. As a, as a, although I feel like I'm on the inside, my feeling, I never feel like on the outside. But as a satirist, I kind of have to be on the inside because you have to get the details, but on the outside, in order to like look at those details and grab hold of them and uh, it's observational humor, right? So you kind of have to be an outsider to be an observer. In the best of the bonnet in the back, there's some people are going to think that I'm spotting now, but there's a little section in the back that's sincere, um, where I have like sort of the true story of Daily Bonnet. And I'm not even joking here. And there's also a couple uh, essays by scholars, and I'm not even like I know every time I talk, people are thinking I'm just making this up. This is just a joke. I'm not. This is real. But there's a couple scholarly essays in the back. This one's by I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but it is related to what we were talking about. Okay, this is by Robert Zacharias, who's a scholar and at York University in Toronto, and he wrote one of the short. They're very short essays at the back, and he said this kind of maybe answers your question a little bit, at least from his observation. This, is in detail and in tone. Unger positions himself squarely within his community, reveling in the telling eccentricities of a people he is only partially embarrassed to call his own. And in offering satire for, rather than simply of, the Mennonites, he extends an underappreciated comic tradition in the pages of Mennonite literature, affirming the community even where his jokes are sharp enough to sting. I would say that's a pretty astute observation of what I'm doing, although I would probably not say that I'm doing this consciously, but I think it's accurate.
Interesting. What's with that self-depreciating humor that the Mennonites enjoy? Like is it that element of, there's that command to be, in the world but not of the world. And is it that element of, if we can be sputzing about ourselves, then, we're acknowledging that, yeah, we're definitely apart from the world, and it's kind of our inside joke, our, like a almost a pedigree to say, yeah, yeah, if we couldn't laugh about ourselves being, like this, then that would almost be a mark against us. Is that where is that
Well,
the root of it, or what?
think about, and I don't know if this is. I'm gonna theorize something here, and it might not be true. So somebody might come back and say, Andrew, you got that wrong. According to my studies, you're way wrong. Okay, that's fine. But I'm just going to put it out there. Think about this. Never mind the Mennonites. Why do people in general, certain people, adopt self-deprecating humor as a thing that they do? Why do people do that? If I think of that for myself, um, when I was trying to think, when did I start doing that? Okay. Hmm. Probably as a teenager at some point, I think. I can remember doing that. Um, and I think it's probably a defense mechanism. Like on an individual level, I'm not even talking about Mennonites here. It's just sort of a defense. You're insecure about something, and then you kind of like this. Like if you can make fun of yourself before anyone else can, then there's nothing they can say that can harm you. If you make the joke before the other guy does, then you've you've taken the sword right out of his wherever you keep swords.
It's kind
You
of
know,
like the ending. It's like the ending of 8 Mile, right? Not that I've ever seen that movie, but
oh boy,
I think
it's been a while. If you make that reference, it's been a while. I had seen that, but it's been a while since I've seen it. If you make,
I
yeah,
heard once. I
oh
heard
yeah,
two people in line at the IGA there. They were talking about the ending of 8 Mile and how, in that last rap battle, then he
oh
just takes the ammo from the other person by saying, "Yeah, here's all the things about me," basic Grunthaler, uh, you know,
yeah.
uh, like that, and I'm this is who I am, and what are you going to say about it? And the
This is
guy
not, you
doesn't
got
have
nothing.
anything to say.
You got nothing at that point. Yeah, you take the ammunition away from. So I don't know if do you think there's something in Mennonite history specifically, Russian Mennonites, that has led to the adoption of this kind of self-deprecating humor. I'm not sure how universal the self-deprecating humor is either. I don't think all Mennonite humor is self-deprecating, but certainly there are. Certainly that's part of it. So I wonder if. So I don't know if that's a product of me just my own, whatever insecurities or whatever as a kid or whatever, or if that's like a whole like being a Mennonite thing. That's why I'm like that. I don't know. Um, but yeah, if you have jokes that uh, are at the expense of somebody else, you're gonna eventually alienate people. So you got to make the jokes at the expense of yourself
Hmm.
or your people, if you want to call it that.
Oh yeah, that's part of it too, eh? Yeah, yeah, if you, yeah,
I
that
wrote my other theory about this, and I wrote about this once in a journal, uh, like a scholarly journal, and they printed it. So that must have meant no. I just mean like it was a peer reviewed journal. So that means like
oh well then, that's a lot
that means
different then.
theory is true then, right? But no, that doesn't mean that. But I was that perhaps the humor stems from, or at least the reluctance to have sort of outward directed humor stems from perhaps from pacifism. You don't
Mm.
attack other people. Okay, but you still have that humor instinct. You have to. Human beings do. And so maybe that's why with Mennonites it's inward pointed, because at least it's not it's in a way, and I'm kind of being serious here, it's nonviolent. It keeps in the tradition of nonviolence if the humor is directed at yourself or your people group or your family or whatever. I don't know. So now also people get sensitive about that. People don't like that, also like
Mm.
you're airing our
Well,
dirty or whatever.
and like to double down on that, not only is it inappropriate to be, making fun of other people because that might be misconstrued, right? But community is so important to the Mennonite people, whether they're trying to drain swamps in Prussia or survive a blizzard on the prairie here. If you don't have community, you don't survive. You can't do it on your own. And so
Hmm.
I think in order to maintain community, there has to be a lot of repression that goes on because if you make waves, if you disrupt community, then you are endangering everybody. And maybe that's also just a safety valve, if you will, from that element of repression, self-repression, where I can't tell you what I really think about this, but I can schputz about this, and maybe it's passive aggressive, maybe it isn't. But maybe that's an ingredient in that loaf of sourdough bread as well.
Oh, okay. Well, I never thought about satire as being a product of Mennonite passive aggression, because Mennonites are definitely known for being passive aggressive, right? Because we can't be violent, so we're passive aggressive instead. So maybe the satire comes from that tendency to
Maybe,
for passive aggression. Maybe. But the community
maybe.
thing you talked about is true too, I think, because Mennonites uh, have traditionally lived in very closely knit communities that were held together by, unfortunately, patriarchy, by rules, by tradition, by religion,
Oh,
by necessity, uh, farming, all these sorts of things. They would like, they had a communal pasture at the end of the village, and they shared. Some of these things were actually, positive things. They shared resources with each other and stuff like that. But as soon as you break that community, um, then what? Or if someone doesn't fit in that community, then what? And so does humor serve to uh, bring the community together or to tear it apart? I think it can do both, and sometimes simultaneously, because it depends on how individuals react to it.
hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What's your favorite Mennonite joke?
Okay, there's a. What's my favorite Mennonite joke? Well, it's not that good of a joke, but like what's the difference between um, Mennonite and a canoe?
What is the difference between a Mennonite and a canoe?
Canoes tip.
Oh, that's good. You know why you always bring two Mennonites with you when you go fishing, right?
Uh, yeah, I forget the punchline, but how does that one go?
Because if you only bring one, then he'll drink all your beer.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So, who are some of those uh, Mennonite authors, influencers on you that that you kind of feel like maybe you're following in the footsteps of? Who are those people who have kind of worn in this path a little bit that you're now exploring on your own? Who are your influencers that way?
Well, if we're specific, I mean, I'm influenced by a number of writers that are not just Mennonites, but if we're talking about Mennonite writers, I mean, it's been pretty amazing. Um, I definitely think Mennonites, especially in Manitoba, have punched above their weight in terms of writing. Like it's kind of it's very impressive the number considering how small our population is. How many like we got the David Bergen, Miriam Taves who are like superstars. Um, and Rudy Weeb, Armin Weeb, so many great, and that's just there's many more. Dora Duick, Di Brandt, many great writers out there, and I'm feeling like, oh boy, if I don't keep listing more more than I'm gonna leave people out. But I would say, for me personally, um, because he's sort of a pioneer in terms of Mennonite humor. Armin Wee would be a big influence on me. Although I would say if you read my books and his books, you see some similarities, but they're quite different. I think our we have some similarities in our style of humor, but they're also I don't think you would mistake my writing for his or his for mine. I think they're different in that regard. And then of course, Miriam Taves, because I wouldn't say her books are comedies. They're certainly not comedies, and if anything, I mean, the tragedies. A lot, some of her books, anyways. But she always has humor in them, even in some of her darkest books, like All My Puny Sorrows, which is a very sad, moving, heart wrenching book. Um, but even in there, there's moments of humor, like dark humor. But there's one scene where uh, there's a kid at his grandmother's or somebody's funeral, and he starts sifting through the ashes. There's a cremation. Starts sifting through the ashes while the woman or whoever is holding him is like doing the free villagis, at a funeral, like the open mic at the funeral, and it's very funny. Um, but that book, it's definitely comedy, but she has this way of 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 putting humor where it needs to be and where it should be, and enhancing the books in that way. So um yeah, I mean, so I love all her books for sure too. And she showed that you could come from Steinbeck and actually be a writer. You could come from this little insignificant town, and you could write about it. That's the thing, you know. You could write about Steinbeck and people would want to read it. She shattered that wall because people might think you have to set your stories in, unless you're from some big city or some place more exotic or significant, no one's going to want to read your books. And she showed that there's just as much, and she continues to show that there's just as much drama and uh, interesting characters and so on in a small Mennonite town on the Canadian prairies as there is in New York City. So yeah,
At
I
least
mean,
it's Steinbeck. I don't know. I don't think if she was writing about Wankler, I think she would have half as much to say, honestly, because that's
she
pretty
might have
dry over there.
twice as much to say, I think, if she's writing about Winkler. Different stuff, I think. I don't know. But, oh, maybe some of the same stuff. I don't know. Yeah, David Bergen's another, fascinating, brilliant writer, and I've read a number of his books too. Although his books are not, uh, maybe I'm missing the humor. They're definitely not. They haven't influenced me in a humor way. His books are uh, uh, much more serious. So are Miriam's, but his books I think don't have a lot of. They're not very light-hearted. They're heart wrenching and thought provoking and brilliant. But I don't mention him as when people ask me my writer influences. I don't mention him as much just because people associate me with being like the funny guy, and his books are not funny. At least any of the ones that I've read. Maybe I'm sorry if I've missed some that are comedies or whatever. But
Interesting. So if someone wanted to, purchase one of your books and get to know you and your writing style a little bit better, where can they do that? That'll send the most, uh, you know, nickels straight to your pocket there. Where would you love to see people, acquiring your material from?
honestly, no matter where you buy it, well, okay, if you're waiting for it to go for 25 cents at the MCC store, then I get no money. If that's your concern. But honestly, wherever you buy it, a new book, I get the same amount of money. So
Oh, really?
but I think it's great if you can support like a we all know about the big websites online or whatever, and they make a lot of money. So I think it's great if you can support like a uh local bookstore. Like I don't know where all I don't know Stephen Hart or how large your audience is and where they all are located. But so I'm not going to list every big bookstore in the country, but in Winnipeg, Nellie Robinson, Common Word at CMU in Steinbach, the Mennonite Heritage Village bookstore. Uh,
What about at Hulls? Are they carrying your books at Hulls?
did you hear about the guy that got his book banned by Halls?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I think it was a boon to his sales because you get your book banned. So maybe I should. I don't know if my if my book exactly books. I don't think they're for sale. I don't know. Maybe they are for sale there. I don't think they're not for sale there to my knowledge. And
Hmm.
no, I don't
I
think they're.
bet you if you put like a scandalous cover on it and then left a copy for them to preview there, you might get it banned, and maybe that would help you out. Get
I've
some good.
always thought that. What do you think about this for a slogan for Hull's bookstore, Christian bookstore? A hull of a good bookstore. What do you think?
One time we're going to have some time with with Oma, living at the manor over there, and we brought we had some chips and dip with us, and she was looking at the dip, and she was trying to make heads or tails out of the name of this haluva good dip. What is haluva good dip? She did not understand why why they would name their dip haluva good dip.
Let's. Did she like the dip?
I think she did. I think she thought it was very good dip. And then from that day forward, we refer to it as haluva dip.
Zayagut dip, they should have called it. I remember the time. I remember the time, and this is some good Southern Manitoba gossip, but it's news. It's true, and I can tell you this because this is true. Uh, and it can go out there because it's a true story. I'm recounting it to the best of my ability. And anyone that works for, uh, I don't know if you'll want to include this or not. I'm going to tell you a true story. Uh, um, I remember when I worked for the trust plant there, which was owned by who owned that? Penner, right?
Oh, yo, yeah.
Yeah, E.G. Penner, and E.G. Penner, who also, yeah, E.G. Penner was still living at that time, and I remember he got a letter in our pay stubs saying that maybe I shouldn't say the name of the dentist. I won't go that far, but there's a certain dentist in town in Steinbach who built a big house and 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 this is a quote, had not purchased one stitch of material from them. and the letter ended with "United we stand." And the idea was that he sent this letter to all the employees saying that they should not get your teeth cleaned by this dentist because he built this big house and hadn't bought any material from this particular company and maybe bought it from CT
Not
Low,
the Lowens.
whatever, CT Lowens or whoever. Uh, and I've been going to that dentist ever since.
Not yet. Not a single stitch.
There must have been hundreds of these letters sent out. Any employee would have got that letter. So I'm sure there's other people listening here that remember getting that in like, oh, when was that? Yeah, like late 90s, early 2000s, about 20 years ago.
Well, we all know that, pen or people help you build it better. Dot, 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 dot. And that's a promise.
That's true.
That's a proper use of the ellipses, right?
Yeah. Well, technically, an ellipsis only has 3 dots.
And then when you do that 3 times in a row, then it's extra poignant, right? So 9 dots.
No, it's three. Anything more or less than that is grammatically incorrect. How many do
But
they have?
no, he's like it's the Trinity, right? Three threes.
They have 9 dots on their sign.
I don't know if I can count that high. Pretty close there. Maybe a couple of them blew off in that hurricane of '07.
The Manitoba hurricane.
No, I think my hymn sing program is about to begin, so maybe I should wrapping up this phone call here. But thank you so much, Andrew, for the chitty chat. I really appreciate it. Just love hearing your insight into the Mennonite culture and how you fit and don't fit within that paradigm. I think it's really important for us to hear those voices as well. So this has been a real great conversation. Thanks for taking the time for that.
Yeah, thanks. And thanks to you, Stephen Harder, and thanks to Mrs. Martins, who's listening in on the party line. I can hear your breathing.
Mm. Yo, thank you again for listening in, Ms. Martins, and hopefully, the doctor can help you clear up that upper respiratory tract issue you're having. If you want to connect with other people who will maybe find themselves as black sheep within the Mennonite fold here, you can of course find us over there on the Facebook group. And then we'll be back here next week with yet another phone call conversation with someone else. But until then, this is Stephen Harder reminding you that underneath our Sunday best, we're all naked. We'll talk to you later.